Hello, this is Eddie Barragon. This is my presentation on skeletal muscles, and thank you for listening, considering my view take on the structure and function and overall general purpose of specifically skeletal muscles. Thank you. There are three main types of muscular tissue. There is skeletal muscle, also known as striated muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. With skeletal muscle, they are, excuse me, lined with distinct and thin white and red lines, which give them the appearance of having ribbons or strings or something, which hence their secondary name of striated muscle. Skeletal muscle is attached to the tendons, and they are responsible for all of the locomotion and general body movement of our bodies. And skeletal muscle is unique in that they are not only aiding in movement as other muscles are, but specifically in the structural integrity of our body. The structural integrity of our bodies are dependent on the skeletal muscle. They are made up of different parts. There's the tendon, which they are attached to. Then there's the epimysium, the perimysium, the actual muscle fibers, the fascicle, and then the overall attachment to the bone. These types of muscles are what allow the movement of our body, and because they are organized in a certain tight, interwoven kind of way, basically, think a good example or analogy would be the rope or the shoelaces of our shoes. And those are what create that tightness, that sense of being packed together that allow for such rigidity and flexibility. And that's basically the function that skeletal muscles serve, in that they are flexible enough to allow for movement, but strong and pliable enough to allow for our bodies to maintain their physical form in the sense of flesh attached to bone. Um, and that's what's really unique about skeletal muscle overall, is that they serve a dual purpose, and they have all these tight junctions that make up their material and their structure. It's very actually quite unique for most types of tissues that are sort of one purpose or one function in their form, whereas muscle has that variability and indeterminability in terms of what they can accomplish and how they can be structured. And one thing I will always tell any student of mine or anybody that I am trying to teach or explain is that, and this goes beyond just skeletal muscle, structure equals form. The way a tissue or a cell is structured or organized in its body plan is what's going to determine the function of that tissue and the purpose of that homeostatic activity. So the primary function of the skeletal muscle is the excitation coupling process. As skeletal muscles are attached to both tendons and bones, the contraction and movement and self-regulating pulling and returning of skeletal muscles is what allows the movement of the bone and the body overall in a specific way or specific function. This is the primary function of skeletal muscle, but it also does serve other purposes. The skeletal muscle also contains amino acids that provide the energy source for specific organ bodily functions within contractual movement for certain homeostatic requirements. The skeletal muscle, besides that, and its excitation coupling process also provides the structural integrity of the body overall, as previously stated. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is the form that we take, the bipedal plantigrade form, is essentially held up together by the very specific structure, grouping, and organization of our skeletal muscles. This is one of the main roles that skeletal muscles also play, in addition to just simply allowing the body to move in specific ways. Another function that they serve that a lot of people are unaware of is that during the process of starvation, when the body is depleted of nutrients and resources, skeletal muscles often act as a source of nutrients and energy source during the process of starvation. Obviously, this can have unwanted negative effects, which can lead down to debilitating muscle loss. This is part of the reason of muscle loss. Starvation process eats away at its own tissues, but skeletal muscle is particularly sensitive to that, and it's particularly damaging when that would occur. But besides the contracting purpose, besides the structural purpose, the skeletal muscle in and of itself does serve quite a variety of purposes and functions, and aids in quite a lot of other processes as well. So in conclusion, I just want to kind of touch on the main points that I was discussing and going over for this presentation. Skeletal muscles, their function depends entirely on their structure. That's something I've stated before and will state again. Structure equals form. The way it's organized, the way it's packed, and the way it is grouped together is what determines the purpose and overall function of the skeletal muscle and other bodily tissues as well. Skeletal muscle specifically is the foundation of our bodily integrity. It's what allows us to have the fine movement of our human form. And of the three types of bodily muscle, it is arguably the most specialized. Compared to cardiac muscle, which is highly specialized but very specific in what it's capable of doing and what its purpose serves, and also smooth muscle, which is probably the most default form of muscular tissue. To break it down simply, smooth muscle, strength-wise, that's what allows for muscle building and certain types of muscle buildup. Cardiac muscle referring, of course, to the circulatory system and all of the organs and processes involved. Whereas skeletal muscle, as specialized as it is the most versatile. It has the most, arguably, again, this is open to interpretation and subject opinion, but it has the most use cases beyond its integral structural purpose. So yeah, that was essentially my presentation on skeletal muscles, the purposes they serve, the functions that they operate in, and the structure that they exist in. Thank you so much for considering and listening to my presentation. This has been Eddie Barragon. Thank you.